Alrighty. Hello, welcome everyone. Good morning. There you go, back with London Open session for Tuesday, March 3rd. Alright, this is basically the first time I'm watching price after Asia. And what do we have? So we basically dropped all the way down to the low of the new week opening up, which personally I like because that's basically potentially getting back in sync with the bearish bias. I'm saying potentially because what I would like to see is to leave below the new week opening up and then try to trade to like the lower quadrant or consecutive encroachment or fail to even touch those levels and then collapse lower. But nonetheless, as long as we are in this lower half of this new week opening up, my stance, my so-called bias to some degree, would be looking for lower prices. Obviously, since Asia price sold off, it was going lower into the London Open, which we could potentially see some measure of retracement, but that's something that we will see. Oh, I see some issues with my stream. I don't know what's going on, but I hope it will settle. Nonetheless, my initial attention goes to those relatively close here, and that's what I'm watching. So basically 24,600 to round it up. That's what I like. Alright, and now let's go to the nitty gritty. Alright, so I do have some issues, technical issues with I don't know, my internet or stream, not sure. I Alright, so price is breaking below those relative equal lows. Also, it's at the low of the current new week opening up. We have some minor buy side liquidity here in form of relative equal highs. I like this here. And because we see the relative equal lows like this being taken here first, I'm expecting some kind of retracement higher. So we'll see what we get. No body close below this low, and I assume if we could go above this fair value gap here, then if it would act as inversion, we could see potential climb towards this buy side here, right? So generally, because it was dropping pretty much straight since Asia, I would like to see some kind of retracement, but it also kind of feels like kind of heavy after yesterday, because yesterday it was ramped up quickly, and if that's kind of like a fake rally, which by the way I suspect it was, today we could see like heavy drop lower. But yeah, nonetheless, I'm waiting for proper structure here on the lower time frame first, and that means I don't want to be selling after we've taken relative equal lows like this. Therefore, I would like require some measure of retracement higher first, or we see like some more information in terms of displacement. But yeah, that's something that we are going to see. Nonetheless, this line here is the sell side liquidity below yesterday's basically 9:30 and 9 o'clock lows. That's the pool of liquidity that I'm anticipating, and it looks like we are seeing some measure of displacement below the sell side here, but nonetheless, if it comes back with a weak, then it's not that strong. But alright, we closed near the low, so now I'm watching if there is a imbalance slash fair value gap being formed in here. right, it closed that completely, and this is somewhat of like a make or break point, because it's either going to act as immediate rebalance, and that would mean it should sell off next candle or next after, or we see some measure of retracement. I personally favor retracement because we've taken many pools of sell side liquidity in a row, and relative equal lows were taken also here. Alright, so back into this inefficiency here, and now I'm watching if we can close above it, so it could act as potential inversion for valley gap. Small little volume imbalance linked to a down candle like this, potential bullish order block after sell side was absorbed here. So if they would like to see a bounce, that's generally a reasonable area in price and time to see that unfold. And again, minor bias liquidity would be here, and maybe we could reach up into those relative equal highs there. So the week went below the volume imbalance, deeper into the order block, but not breaching the mean threshold, nor the volume balance didn't closed on a closing basis. So still I'm watching this fair value gap from 249 as we are poking up into it, if it can be traded above and act as inversion. So now we also have relative equal highs in here on a very small scale, but nonetheless this one is lower than this one, so that's a high probability candidate to see a run on liquidity. So generally, if it's good, if the retracement is likely, it has everything technically to that would allow that. If it fails, that basically that means to me that it's really heavy and it's reaching for some higher time frame objective lower first, and it's in a rush, so it's kind of like you don't want to waste time going higher. But right now I still kind of like want to see more info about it, because again I don't want to go short while price is dropping and making new lows. It's not primarily ideal, and if it wants to trade lower from where it is and it stays heavy, then so be it. Alright, so this is basically the range right now. Minor sell side in here. I believe we closed below the mean threshold of this. Yeah, we did. So that right away kind of like makes the bullishness less likely in my mind. Not that it can't possibly still clear those relative equal highs, but yeah, overall it kind of looks or feels somewhat of a heavy market though. So if you look at this price action only right now and you see how many times we've taken sell side liquidity and how many times we've taken buy side liquidity, you will see that sell side was being taken a lot and buy side wasn't really pushed for quite some time. Therefore, I would suspect that if it's not like completely falling off lower, then it will want to reach for some measure of buy side, and that's reasonable still, especially if we have like relative equal highs like this. So that's kind of too clean, and or this obvious high here linked to this inefficiency, and this area right here that was only delivered with a week. So that's basically something that it will want to revisit in here. That's not efficient enough. So yeah, that's in realm of reasonable. So we poked the relative equal highs buy side here, and basically 1, 2, this is third time we are trading into this inefficiency, which I believe should give up the ghost and close above it or trade above it now. That's what I would reasonably expect, but we'll see. So as you can see, there is a lot of overlapping, and we kind of like went into some small range in here, which kind of like signifies that price is not necessarily in a rush to go anywhere as it is right now, and that's fine. It's also London open session, so it doesn't usually see like a lot of volatility. Today it might be different because global events, but yeah. So 3 times traded into this fair value gap here. So this is the third time, and we are repelling lower from it. I'm watching now how much of a magnitude it will kind of like pick up, and if it can reach the sell side here. Nonetheless, because it traded this many times into it, if it were to fail to continue lower, or if it will, for example, tap the sell side and then reject, the fourth time we will come back to here. I believe it will give way, and we will trade higher, potentially into here and maybe here. But again, this is somewhat of a range, somewhat of a consolidation right now. So yeah, it's definitely tricky to tell. Alright, so the short-term low swept, and now I'm watching how price will behave after that. Do we see displacement? Do we see rejection? Alright, so as we are piercing below the sell side here, this inefficiency will be key, in my opinion. As we could see a return back into it, that's reasonable. That's a nice purge on sell side liquidity. And yeah, if it goes and if it just dumps lower and reaches the previous day's New York Open or pre-New York Open sell side liquidity, then that's a missed opportunity. But truth to be told, it's not aligning really well with engaging it with high probability, as it's just dropping like this. So that's fine. So this inefficiency right here, that's what I'm watching right now, whether we can see price return to it and how we trade around it. Will we close above it? If we do, I would like to see it act as inversion to send us higher than probably this high. But if we never trade it even to it, then sure, it's heavier. It's heavier than I thought initially, but it's okay. So a swing low was formed here. Therefore, I'm really thinking if we can return to this inefficiency. If we take this low out, it has to happen with displacement. If it's just a tap, small tap and rejection, then I'm more confident that it will actually rip higher. But okay, let's see. So we are close to approach this inefficiency. So basically, if it's bearish, I would like to see tap into it and then show like some displacement, large displacement on the 15-second and 5-second. Then I would consider like aiming for the sell side here. But if it will fail to do so and trade above it on a closing basis, then I would really look for potential inversion fair value gap that would potentially allow for a run on trailed stop losses that are already short and are trailing it, because there is a lot of buy side liquidity above this high and this high at the moment. And we are already in a pool of sell side liquidity here. So that would be, or potentially could be, a very, very like sweet area for smart money to do a run against everyone else to some degree. Nonetheless, we tapped into it here, so now I'm watching if we can inverse that or not. So far, price went deep into it, failed to touch the high, and the bodies are staying below the lower quadrant of this little inefficiency. But we don't necessarily see a large significant displacement on the lower time frames here, so I'm not necessarily sold on the idea that it's going lower, but if it is, then that's fine. I will miss it. There we go, another attempt to trade above it. This one looks pretty convincingly strong. We tapped the high, not a closure above it yet, so I'm still waiting if it can offer a close above it, and then I will consider this as potential inversion fair value gap to reach towards this buy side and this buy side here, as far as this inefficiency. But that's, again, that's a lot of if then statement, but yeah, the the conditions, the price action is volatile. It does a lot of things in here, and it's not like I can just, you know, ignore the rules and protocols, because then I would be somewhat lost in the sauce. So yeah, it went above it but failed to close above it. In fact, it closed way below it now. Okay, I'll annotate this sell side liquidity pool here, because that's where the sell side is right now. It's relative equal lows. And if price doesn't want to give way above this in fair value gap, then we might see a run below those lows. But nonetheless, it's too iffy, it's too small of a range, it's too many sell-side liquidity pools were taken in a row, so I could like trust with high degree of probability that it will actually rip lower from here, because it could do it, right? But it could also offer some measure of retracement higher, and both ideas are reasonably likely. All right, so we tapped the short-term low here, the sell side, and now it's kind of like make or break point, because we are really close to this larger objective. So it could really like displace and just smash right through it, seeking that liquidity, and that's like reasonable. But yeah, we have to see, because if it rejects this, then it's very likely to seek a near-term or short-term buy side first. All right, so far no large displacement below this low, which is suspect, because if there is no displacement here, I suspect this little fair value gap could be drawn up into it, and we would see and measure how it does here. But nonetheless, like, it took so many lows in a row since Asia, so we are technically really in some measure of discount for the daily range, current daily range, which that's the main factor and main reason why I don't want to sell short, even though I suspected this level here. That was the first level that I outlined as a point of interest today. Price didn't really offer me the structure and the model that I would like to employ, basically. And yeah, I mean, that's okay. That's something that happens, and it can happen, and you either let it go, or you can end up chasing price, selling below the lows and stuff like that, which generally, like 80% of times you will get beaten up by that. But sometimes when it's really heavy, 20% of times you can get away with it. That's how I see it. But nonetheless, it's stretching towards this sell side, being very close to it. So I suspect we will actually tap into it soon. And yeah, then we will see, or then we will have all of the buy side liquidity still in play, and maybe that could be like more prompt to reverse and seek some buy side after the sell side is being taken, because the way it delivered the price, it was really scooping the sell side. It was really like constantly purging that, while the buy side was basically being left, right? So everyone who is short, everyone who chased all of this here is easy picking, because they will have like stop loss above this high if they trail it strong. Also this high is reasonable, and all of that liquidity, which is a rather large pool of liquidity, of buy side liquidity, is also residing inside of the new week opening up for this current week. So basically it kind of like blends two worlds, right? In terms of the drawn liquidity, inefficiency and liquidity, and both are very strong, because the new week opening up for current week was really large and significant, and it's important. So that's always, for this week, that's an important level and draw. But also the buy side liquidity that is being like trailed above those highs inside of the new week opening up, that's a huge pool of liquidity. So it's very reasonable to see price reprice back into it, especially after this much of down rally and this much of a discount in here. So I hope that makes sense. Nonetheless, that's how I see it. That's how I read the narrative around here. So we tapped to this sell side, basically to the tick. That's not enough in my opinion. I would like to see it purge some deeper. So I want to see some bodies close below it, and then we'll see, because it's still somewhat of an early London 3:30. That's reasonable to see. I mean, we can see still some moves happening for the London Open, and yeah. So yeah, this is the deeper run below it. That was the sell side, those relative equal lows. And now, as I said, look at this price action here since Asia, right? It was all down, all down, all down, stretching lower, 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 and now clearing a pool of sell side liquidity here. Wouldn't it be reasonable to attack some buy side liquidity above those very, very aggressively trailed highs? In my opinion, it would be quite reasonable to do so. And that's, I believe, what I'll expect for the remainder of this London Open. I don't think that's very proper and like reasonable for the price to just smash through and attack the larger pool of liquidity. Maybe it could do it, but I see it as less likely. And yeah, that's how I think about it at the time. So yeah, we poked deeper into the sell side here, but rejected that. Only went there with a week. Now returning back to this fair value gap. So again, to see some measure of run against this down move, we want to see a closure above it, and that could turn into a potential inversion fair value gap. That's what I would like to see. And yeah, I would consider myself wrong about this potential run higher only if we see a measure of large displacement below this low. If we do that, then I probably am wrong, and it's just too heavy, and it will want to run lower, and it will not give retracements or deep retracements at all. But until that happens, I personally favor a potential return to the new week opening up and spook out the liquidity that's resting above here, and that's in realm of reasonable. Right, there we go. So looks like we might be seeing a close above this and already reasonable rejection here. So I will be very interested to see how this inversion will deliver, because if it's good, if it's proper, we shouldn't see a closure below the 50% of this little inefficiency, and it should be repelling price higher. Again, because we've taken so many sell-side liquidity pools in a row, because the buy side is so obvious and it's inside of new week opening up, it feels like reasonable to expect that, but nonetheless we still have to see specific signatures, meaning that after we trade into this upper half of this inversion fair value gap, I would like to see a measure of displacement higher on the 15-second or 5-second chart, and that would be basically somewhat of a confirmation that it's proper and it's likely to rally higher. Until we see that, I'm basically like neutral, and I don't have like an very active interest in doing anything. So the rules and procedures are or need to be in place first, and then we either see those things kind of like materializing or not. And yeah, we measure the the outcome. So we basically poked into this inversion for value gap here. Did we offer any displacement out of the upper half on the 5-second or 15-second? No, we didn't. It's actually already failing to even stay inside of it. So nothing to be done at this moment. No need to worry. We just wait for more information. If it wants to poke below this low, it can do it. That's all right. So basically I'm narrowing my interest to specific points of reference, and as it is here right now, it could take this low. It's reasonable, and it could even go lower, right? But I'm not chasing the price as it's going lower. Right, so this looks like a measure of displacement below this low, and that's what I said, that if that happens, I'm probably wrong about a retracement higher first, and it looks like it's being presented to us. So with that said, the sell side liquidity here, as long as this holds true and we actually have a displacement here, is reasonable expectation. But again, that's similar to like if we have like the 930 and we have like a very large premium opening range gap. Imagine that, and imagine that price from the 930 open keeps on trading higher and just keeps on delivering higher and never offers a retracement to a discount. That's something that we don't want to chase, right? That's something we want to wait. Eventually price will want to seek some discount then and trade higher, right? Potentially. So this is very similar but opposite direction, right? So this is somewhat if we opened with a large discount opening range gap and price kept on trading lower, kept on trading lower without this deep retracements, and that's something that by definition it doesn't happen too often. Usually we see like 2, maybe 3 days like this in a month, so that's not too many, and they can move a lot, they can cover a lot of range, but they also many times don't offer that pristine low risk entries in the process, right? So basically if you are not positioned ahead of that, like today it would be like positioned from Asia, which Asia was high in premium, and holding a position from Asia is reasonable, it's fine, you can hold and aim for lower targets, but acquiring new positions here in London after it already is so deeply discounted, you could do it, right? But you are running this risk of potential retracement, which is always reasonable, but at the same time it doesn't need to happen. So this is the gray area, I believe, and yeah. So huge nice down candle here, stretching towards the sell side liquidity below 24 449 and a quarter. So this is basically the sell side liquidity that I mentioned yesterday, but yesterday it wasn't a factor as price kept on rallying higher, and it seems that it's going to want to seek that level of liquidity here. I like how after this displacement price touched this candle's low only and then aggressively sold off. I like to see that. Immediate rebalance right there. So if it's good, it should really aggressively sold off in the next couple of minutes, and that's honestly preferably what I would like to see. So completely rebalancing this large down candle here with this up candle perfectly to the low here. Immediate rebalance, meaning it should, in line with the bias, it should aggressively expand the range lower in this next 2-3 candles, and that would be like the expectation for now, unless proven otherwise. But to be honest, taking into consideration how heavy the price action was the whole London session, how unable it was to offer any meaningful retracements, seeing this signature here in a very like weak and heavy market, I would like to see just deliver and run towards the sell side right here from the daily chart. But yeah, that's the initial expectation. If it fails, that's also a clue, and that's something that we can watch. But before that happens, I'm sticking with the least resistance path. New York AM session choppy with this. Pre-market might be though. Pre-market might be choppy potentially. It all depends on whether we will get some measure of retracement or not eventually this day. Right now it looks like it's really heavy, willing to attack the sell side here, and that's fine, that's all right. Yet I would expect this candle should really like completely lose the ground if it's proper. But yeah, again, we covered a lot of ground already, right? A lot of ground already since Asia. Sell side here being taken, sell side here being attacked. So depends what we have. If we take this sell side during the London, I would expect the pre-market will be sloppy. and AM session might be potentially sloppy, or it will lose the ground completely. But if, for example, we spare the sell side here for now, and the London session will not go there, and it's open for the pre-market and or 9:30 open, and we retrace ever since, then I believe the New York will be really good, and I will be looking for this level as objective. But yeah, it all depends what we do during the remainder of the London, whether we actually raid it or not. So yeah, to be honest, today offers the characteristics and the overall environment of the day is I would say reasonably difficult in a sense, not necessarily in terms of like anticipating the draw, because that was already given, that was outlined well, but in terms of offering a very high probability low risk entries, that's not necessarily what we've seen thus far, and it's mainly because we were already so extended into the discount and so oversold in a sense. So yeah, price went into small little consolidation after this immediate rebalance here. That's not what I want to see, to be honest. It should be leaving this range quickly and expanding lower if it were good, because we see what we see here, that's questionable, and it could offer or result in a retracement higher again, but nothing technically salient that I would like act on it, right? So yeah, I believe I will go online somewhere during the pre-market, and we'll also see how it goes there, because as for the daily chart, look at the size of the candle already. It's quite large. The sell side here is prominent, so that's reasonable from the daily. The higher time frame bias is bearish and was bearish, so that's, you know, in line with it. But yet I would like to see some intraday rally, intraday move higher that would offer some kind of premium, and it would just frame a low risk engagement, right? So so right now this is like looking somewhat of a perfect bear flag, like this retail pattern, right? And again, I don't like to be selling while having this, and yeah, tricky, kind of tricky. I could honestly imagine, as it spent so much time in here, I could imagine a scenario where we poke only below this low shallowly and then reject higher and then seek some inefficiencies and buy some liquidity on the near term. and yeah, that could maybe offer some measure of retracement. Nonetheless, yeah, I mean, this consolidation here is really not something I like to see, though. In my opinion, if it were really good, we would already be approaching the sell side liquidity here. But the fact that we are not and we are consolidating like this, maybe they want to deny it. But yeah, let's see. I'm really curious how we, or if we engage this low, and if we can then maybe repire, because this is like a perfect textbook bear flag here. After many sell side liquidity pools taken. So yeah, I don't think that smart money would like to be like selling hard here to a retail pattern like this with potential uninformed money here. So yeah, this is actually interesting here, because this is too clean, too obvious as a bear flag. But hey, let's see. Alright, so it went very close to the low, but so far it's just hanging around. In my opinion, the immediate rebalance is already like exhausted. It's gone. It didn't deliver, because it should already be like stretching lower. It's not. So that coupled with this being a bear flag here kind of like increases the risk or potential for a retracement. Not saying that it has to happen, but that's something that I could like reasonably expect, rather than selling on the daily lows, basically, because this is the low of the day so far, after a huge enormous run lower. So this is generally not what you want, not something you want to do. And yeah, all I want to do, or all I try to do, is just follow the rules and follow the protocols, and don't deviate besides them or outside them. So every candle is overlapping. It's a small little choppy range, which literally looks like a perfect bear flag after this huge of a rally down already. So interesting how they will want to play it out. mm, clearly a measure of manipulation is likely. All right, so this is also a 350 to 410 macro. So I'm really expecting that price will do something during this time. And I know that the sell side is really close, right? It's really close, but we had an enormous rally lower. And ultimately, I believe this is the draw on liquidity for the day. The only thing that I'm just not like comfortable with is this bear flag here after immediate rebalance. That was like, it spent just too much time in my opinion in here, and that would be like a very 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 sweet spot to tap this low gently and then reject higher and run some buy side liquidity on the near term and trailed stop loss for shorts. And in my opinion, that would be really reasonable after what we saw. It doesn't mean that it will happen, obviously, because it's also against the higher time frame order flow. But in terms of the narrative, that makes the most sense at the time. So we did tap the low here very politely, and now we see initial rejection, and let's see how it will actually do. Because this really looks like a perfect situation or perfect area to trap people short in a very 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 deep discount, basically at the low of the day, and then drag them by the repels. And that's what we see somewhat right now. So we see some measure of displacement here, so that's nice. I like to see that. We are smashing the relative equal highs here on the near term basis, but I would say it could still have some more magnitude to it. I'm watching now this 4 a.m. candle, whether it can still have this imbalance here. Preferably yes, but that's something that I'm watching. Alright, so it left a little portion open there, and preferably it stays open. Preferably it doesn't even trade to it, and it just rips higher like aggressively and quickly against anyone who was considering selling short here at the low of the day. And that, in my opinion, would be interesting to see. Anything else I'm not necessarily that interested in, to be honest, at the moment. But yeah. So where is the most obvious pool of buy sell liquidity? To the left, it's here, right? So that's the minor buy sell liquidity. The most significant, the most obvious high that's formed recently after we broke below the sell side. So this would be something I would be watching if we can reach up there, and maybe slightly higher afterwards, but that's something I would be measuring. All right, so I would like to see it quickly reach up into this inefficiency here, and preferably don't resist it, because I believe that every retail rig will see this as high to low, optimal trade entry, fair value gap, short, and yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it looks like this, but I believe the narrative and the mechanics behind it are to attack this buy sell liquidity here rather than sell off from it, because we already like sold off this much, and if it wanted to, it would or could already reach this level here. But yeah, I believe that's the buy side is more prominent here, so that's what I'm watching, and we'll see how it goes. Because this was so quick to the downside, I would expect a quick to the upside type of run if possible through this. Alright, so what do we have so far? We somewhat of a displaced lower in here, but we failed to even touch into this fair value gap and close all the way up here. This to me is not bearish, unless we overtake it aggressively in the next candle, but this to me is not bearish. So it all kind of lends well with the narrative that this buy set here is reasonable expectation next, and that they kind of like changed gears a little bit. And yeah, let's see. So this CB, as I said, I want to see large up candles through it, not really stopping. It should have easy time going through this. Small little inefficiency here. I'm watching that. If you can jump to it, I mean trade to it and then jump away, that's probably like ideal if this buy set is in fact the way to go. So we'll see that. That's something I'm watching right now. And yeah, hello don't you Christian, hello. I remember you, my friend. OG crew, it's been a while, that's true. It's not an easy task initially, but I guess it's getting better over time. So yeah, as you can see, I'm managing to sneaky peek a stream here and there. So I guess it's all right. But yeah, thanks for asking. So yeah, I really want to see some speed picking up on the upside here, to like not give anyone that's having a stop loss above this high time to escape. But yeah, displacement lower here, kind of tricky. So this might be a trap, I believe. Still, this might be a trap. Because that would be somewhat of a perfect like OTE fair value gap. This setup that I outlined, that's like perfectly, and it's, you know, even starting to sell off initially. So in terms of the pattern, that's there, but in terms of the narrative, it makes way more sense to reach the buy set here, I believe. That's what I think at least. So nonetheless, let's study this idea. So we went below this fair value gap here, right? So if it's in fact bearish, it should not close above it again. So that's a quick and dirty test on how you're doing with the order flow. Also, this consecutive encroachment of this week, I'm watching that too as a potential discount sensitivity down to this fair value gap right here. Because this low pierced these relative equal lows, I believe this fair value gap is quite significant, and it should not go through it unless it's really going for the sell side down there. So these are basically the three PD arrays that I have in here. We breached one, we tapped into the second one, we failed to reach the consecutive encroachment, so that's initially reasonably good, and this is the third one here. So ideal scenario, we go above this little fair value gap here and we reclaimed it, meaning we close above it and then use it as support. That's to me pretty bullish, and we will likely see the buy side liquidity here being taken out, and maybe as far as this fair value gap here it could reach, right? Because when it comes to liquidity, we never want to price stop at the high, we want to see trade pass through it. So nonetheless, we are trading back into this fair value gap here, right? And it already closed at the high, so that's already not that bad in terms of this idea still, right? Preferably we would like to see a close above it. It failed to do so, but we still wait. Alright, so price is so far it's still failing to reach the consecutive encroachment of this discount week, which is a measure of strength in my opinion in the current structure and situation. By the way, notice that I'm not saying that this is an easy long. I'm just trying to outline a narrative that can possibly unlock or allow for a long entry running the buy side liquidity here. But it requires some more insights behind what we have in here, because it's tricky, right? It's downtrending, it's going lower. We don't want to pick the low of the day too, so you know, it's not a very easy environment to navigate in, and it is what it is, right? So nonetheless, we tapped the consecutive encroachment here only with the wick. The bodies are staying at the upper quadrant here. Also a short-term low was taken. So I really want to see price reclaim this fair value gap if it's indeed going to go higher. That's very important. Preferably leaving this little gap here open, and that would be pretty ideal for the narrative that I'm outlining here, with the potential run on the buy side liquidity here and this inefficiency. If that's not the case, if that's not true, if we fall lower, then it's just, you know, it's invalid, and we need to build a new narrative. Alright, so price tapped into this fair value gap here. This is the last line of defense in terms of potential run towards this buy side, because 1, 2, this is third PD array. If we lose this, then I believe the old low sell side might be too strong of a draw, and it won't allow for retracements like this. But yeah, until that happens, until that's proven 100% wrong, it's still possibly there. So what would need to happen right now? We would need to reject this fair value gap strongly, close above this discount week, and preferably this fair value gap. This only brings, I mean, these things only will bring the idea back to life. And then if that would actually happen, I would feel pretty comfortable or confident that it will attack the buy side liquidity here. And yeah, that's how I see it right now. Alright. So small ranges like this should bring larger ranges soon, but nonetheless, it's getting pretty tight. I don't like how it's trending lower like this. I believe it would be more convenient if it would do it in a large ranges, but who knows, that may change. Again, we are approaching this little fair value gap, and yeah, if we close below it, if we lose it, then I believe we might be drawing towards this all daily low next, and yeah, that's then, I mean, that's ultimately where I think it will go. But with this little structure here and this little narrative, it kind of makes sense to attack some minor buy side, just for the sake of unseating people that are short, since London or Asia and trailed, and not allowing them to participate in this run lower. That would be the narrative behind it, right? Not allowing the people who were chasing shorts inside of this to get to the promised land here. But yeah, that remains to be seen. Alright, so I like how the bodies are respecting this little inefficiency here, but we need to reject that and start reclaiming the weak and this fair value gap here if it's good on the upside. Welcome Trones FX238 Kia Ora double trader. I suspect that Kia Ora is some welcome in your language. It's cool, Kia Ora. I like it, and I'm glad I'm able to help with learning. By the way, it's nice little reaction here. That's what I want to see. And this little fair value gap there, I want to see price close above it. And again, the narrative was built around those 3 PD arrays, and we went down to the last line of defense, last PD array, but it didn't broke. It actually was respected, and now we are reclaiming all of the other PD arrays. So the idea basically goes back live, expecting this buy sell liquidity, as we can potentially close above this reclaimed fair value gap. Yeah, how do I use the 15-second and 5-second? It gives me some insight, some details that I cannot see on the 1-minute chart, and it obviously can help with entering trades that are already ongoing, right? So for example, if you have like a price swing on the 1-minute chart that doesn't offer too many opportunities for entry in terms of a PD array, you can likely find some on the 5-second or 15-second, right? And as long as you know where the price is likely going next and there is enough range, you can reasonably use that and get in sync. And that's one way of using it. Alright, so we came all the way up to this fair value gap here. We failed to reclaim it. It acted as inversion fair value gap, and now price rejected again, traded below this low. So I suspect that the daily old low is too strong of a draw here, and that's what I'm thinking right now, to be honest. I don't want to wrestle the higher time frame order flow, and if it doesn't give me anything constructive on the upside, then I'm not going to force it. Nonetheless, this should act as inversion fair value gap then, and it should reject price. If it fails to reject price and trade lower, then there is a likelihood that we are going to be stuck inside of a consolidation, inside of a sideways range, which, yeah, it will be unfavorable near term. So Kia Ora is from New Zealand. Nice to know, good to know. By the way, in the description there is a link to my Telegram channel. That's the only Telegram channel that I have. It's free, and it's a way for me to communicate with anyone interested off stream. So I just share some thoughts that I either can't share on stream because it's after the stream and price does something, or I can reference something that I outlined on stream and still keep in touch, or kind of like keep track of it by Telegram. But nonetheless, it's just a bonus, so to say, so I can keep you in touch. Nonetheless, we are tapping into this little fair value gap here, already kind of like failing. There is a small little fair value gap, bearish fair value gap right there. It would need to reject it hard and strong and show displacement on 5 second, 15 second if it wants to get towards the all daily low. I don't like to stall in here and spend time, because that's, as I said, it's likely going to lead into a consolidation, into a range bound sideways move, which we don't want to see, but it can happen after such a large range to the downside. It's reasonable to expect. So yeah, closing back above this, in my opinion, that makes the chances for a consolidation greater, and this is how it is. So relative equal lows are being set or placed to engineering sell side liquidity. And yeah, I don't feel very strong about what the price is doing right now. It kinda failed to offer the narrative on the upside, but at the same time the narrative on the downside is not that clear or not that precise at the same time. So the last thing I'm watching is this little fair value gap here, and if we can manage to close below it again, as we did, I'm watching if we can touch to the low of it and then reject, or maybe not even touch, that's fine, but it has to displace lower then, and it has to show a range expansion below this low. If we don't see that, then, as I said, it kind of becomes 50-50. It kind of becomes a range, a consolidation, and it can be, you know, messing around a little bit, which will be tricky to engage. So we did tap into this inefficiency here, and as we did this, we should displace lower. If it's going to seek the sell side liquidity here, it should like quickly respond with a displacement with range expansion to the downside, and that's probably like the last chance that I'm giving it for the London session here. If it fails, then I'm probably cutting the bait, and I'll be back for some pre-market session later. Alright, so again price is trading above that inversion fair value gap, which is not ideal for what I want to see. And okay, it didn't close above it, so that's last chance. Again, last chance. It has to repel lower from it now. And I'm paying so much attention to the time element now, because if we don't do that, we really are going to be caught up into a consolidation, which I don't want to engage with, right? Because consolidation is not the place I want to be in. I want to see movement. I want to see directional price swings. And alright, looks like this is the last chance for it here. I like the candle. I like this large down candle. We close below this low. That's great. It should not come back to here at all. It should just swing lower and not see large displacements. I mean large retracements. If that's good, the 5-second and 15-second should be offering displacements lower too. And this is kind of like the range of opportunity on the downside, if that's actually valid. But again, I don't want to see it come back to here. Why? Because we already traded to it once and twice, and we left it nicely. We closed below this. So if it wants to expand, if it wants to see a directional price swing, it doesn't need to come back to here. So the fact that it's spending so much time in here, it's really also overlapping with previous candles. So these are high resistance type of scenarios, which also makes that extra difficult to engage. And yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is. Still, in my opinion, I would say it would be very convenient for price to reach some minor buy sell liquidity first, and the longer we stay like this and the longer we don't displace, the more I again favor that outcome, because how many times we've taken sell side and the buy side is super obvious. In here, for example, this is the closest in proximity buy sell liquidity pool for the price right now. And if it really don't want to trade lower, which by the way it has to start displacing lower if it wants to do so, because otherwise we are back inside of here and we can still either go sideways or seek some buy side, right? So it's kind of like failing to offer continuation, and this buy side here is the most obvious at the moment. So now as we went above this fair value gap here with this large range, after we taken sell side and rejected higher, I would consider using this PD array as a reclaimed bullish fair value gap if we could touch to it potentially. I would like to see a displacement higher from it, and I would be aiming for this high, as far as this high there, for near-term buy side liquidity. And that's something I would like to see with this price action here. If it fails, then it really becomes 50-50 and tricky, and I don't want to touch it for now. So we got the touch here to this reclaimed bullish fair value gap, and it should now displace higher and really like reject price higher towards this buy side liquidity here and potentially here. So that's what I'm watching right now. So this is really dynamic price reading, tape reading, with the short-term volatility and 1 minute micro market structure. So a lot of fluff, but this is what it is. So I really like this high here. I think it's high probability to see it attack this. Also there is inefficiency right above it, so it's pretty solid as a draw. Sell side was taken here many times here. We rejected that. All I want to see is displacement out of this reclaimed bullish fair value gap. If we can see that on 5 second or 15 second, then that's pretty much a loaded deal to run that buy side. And that's all I want to say. If this fails here and we trade below that, I don't like to touch it until the next session. Hello Ash, welcome to the stream. By the way, today we had quite some people joining, I saw, so I'm glad to see that, and I hope you guys enjoyed the session. To be honest, this one today is or was rather difficult in my opinion, not the easiest one to navigate, and yeah. So we tapped into this reclaimed bullish fair value gap here again, and now I want to see displacement higher. I like how no bodies are closing inside of it, only wicks. That's good. That's reasonable. Alright, so it closed below it again, and that really makes it really difficult to read, to be honest, because it's not following the protocols, the signatures that I would like to see it follow, meaning that it kind of becomes somewhat of a low probability to me, and that's fine. Maybe that was just not my session, and that's how I will treat it in a sense. It didn't offer what I was like looking for the most part, and it is what it is. I'm not going to be crying about it. The next session I will be just trying to do as well as I did here, and if the conditions will be proper, the read will be much easier than today. But nonetheless, this is the strong magnet that I believe it's actually going to seek right now, even though it's super heavy, even though it moved a lot lower. That looks like too strong of a magnet. It failed to offer a bullish scenario here, which was, in my opinion, the last chance here, because everything was technically in line, so it could have delivered that, but they didn't. They didn't offer a displacement here, so there was no setup. If there was no setup, there's nothing to do, right? And yeah, that's how it is. But nonetheless, basically since like hour, we saw this very overlapping high resistance, small range type of price action, and yeah, navigating in this type of area isn't the easiest though, and that's not necessarily what I want to focus on, right? But okay, so I think that's going to be it. I will be doing some stream during the pre-market today, like around 8 o'clock maybe, something like that. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed and had a good time reading price action. And yeah, see you later, alligator. Have a nice day. Bye bye.